Think about the last time you really just watched your cat. I don't mean just a quick glance as you walk by, but a real moment where you just observed them. Did you catch that slow, deliberate blink they gave you from across the room? Or the way their tail gave a little flick? We see this stuff all the time, and we tend to just write it off as, cat things. But what if they're not? What if your cat has been carrying on a whole conversation with you this whole time, and you just haven't learned the language yet? Well, that's what we're going to dive into today. We're going to start decoding that silent conversation that's happening in your home every single day. So, is your cat really trying to tell you something? Oh, absolutely. The answer is a huge yes. That little head caress against your leg, that sudden burst of zoomies that sends them flying across the living room, even the way they choose to nap just out of arm's reach instead of right on your lap. These are all words, they're sentences in a really complex and subtle language. Our goal here isn't to make you a cat expert overnight, but to start cracking the code, so you can go from just living with your cat to truly, deeply connecting with them. Okay, so to make this all make sense, we've broken it down into a few key parts. First up, we'll talk about the silent conversation itself, kind of the grammar of how cats communicate. Then we'll get into the fun stuff, decoding everyday behaviors, which is like building our vocabulary. After that, we'll explore why context is everything and how to learn to observe without, driving yourself crazy. We'll also cover a really important topic, when to pay extra attention for potential health clues. And finally, we'll wrap it all up by looking at how this conversation continues for a lifetime. Sound good? Let's get started. To really get cats, you have to kind of go back in time in your imagination. Picture being a creature that is both an expert hunter, but also somebody else's potential dinner. That's the world cats evolved in, and living that double life made them absolute masters of subtlety. They just can't afford to be loud and obvious all the time. Their survival literally depends on a silent, nuanced language of body posture, scent signals, and really quiet vocalizations. It's a language born from caution and precision, and it's way, way more sophisticated than just a meow here and there. So this all boils down to three essential keys to unlock that language: context, patterns, and repetition. First, context is everything. A cat purring while curled up on your lap is sending a very different message than a cat purring while it's in a carrier at the vet's office, right? Same behavior, totally different meaning. Second, we have to look for patterns. A single random meow might not mean anything, but a pattern of meowing by the kitchen door at 5 p.m. every single day, that's a crystal clear message that somebody thinks it's dinner time. And third, repetition. Cats are smart. They figure out what works. If rubbing against your legs gets you to put down some food, you can bet they are going to repeat that behavior. These three things, context, patterns, repetition, they're our toolkit for moving from just guessing what our cats want to actually understanding them. All right, let's get to the good part. This is where we start building our actual feline vocabulary. We're going to break down some of the most common and honestly the most frequently misunderstood actions that you probably see your cat do every single day. Let's start with the slow blink. Seriously, if a cat does this near you, it is a massive compliment. Just think about it from their perspective for a second. For an animal that's wired to be both a predator and prey, closing your eyes, even for a split second, is an act of total vulnerability. It's their nonverbal way of saying, I trust you so much that I can let my guard down around you. It's a huge gesture that just lowers the social tension in the room. And here's the best part. You can do it back. If you're looking at your cat, just slowly close your eyes and then slowly open them again. You are literally speaking their language, telling them, I'm not a threat and I trust you too. It's such a simple, beautiful way to build that bond. So let's talk about head bunting. The key thing to understand here is that it's all about scent. Cats have these scent glands all over their faces, on their forehead, their cheeks, their chin. When your cat presses and rubs their head against you, they're depositing their unique pheromones onto you. Now, this isn't just them putting a little mine sticker on you. It's actually much deeper than that. They're creating a shared group scent, a kind of colony scent that identifies you as a safe, trusted member of their family. It's a huge sign of affection and bonding. Of course, it can also be a more direct request. If they bunt you and then immediately look toward the kitchen, well, they might just be telling you that it's time for a snack. Now for a quick fire round of 3 more classic behaviors. First, kneading, or as we all love to call it, making biscuits. This is a behavior that goes way back to when they were tiny kittens, kneading their mother to get milk to flow. When an adult cat does it, it's a sign of absolute contentment and security. And just like with head bunting, they're also marking you with scent glands in their paws, reinforcing that you are their person, their source of comfort. Next up, the infamous act of knocking things off of shelves. It can feel like they're just being little chaos agents, right? But it's usually driven by a mix of curiosity and their predatory instinct. Their paw pads are super sensitive, so batting at something is a way of testing it, figuring out what it is, and if it moves, well, that can trigger their hunter instincts. And yeah, they also learn very quickly that it's a surefire way to get you to look at them. And finally, what about the cat that follows you from room to room like a little shadow? This could be simple affection, they just like being near you. Or it can be a form of territorial patrol. They're just keeping an eye on what's happening in their space. And sometimes it's a very direct request. They want food, they want you to open a door, or they want some attention. Okay, this right here is probably one of the biggest points of miscommunication between humans and cats. So your cat rolls over on its back, exposing that fluffy, irresistible belly. It just looks like an open invitation for a good belly rub, doesn't it? Well, for most cats, the answer is a big, resounding no. And the reason why is a perfect lesson in how differently they communicate compared to, say, a dog. So let's compare. When a dog shows its belly, it's often a gesture of submission, and yeah, they usually love a good scratch. But here's the thing. Cats are not small dogs. For a cat, exposing their abdomen where all their vital organs are is the single biggest sign of trust they can possibly show you. They are basically saying, I feel completely and utterly safe with you. But, and this is a big but, that trust does not mean it's an invitation to touch that incredibly vulnerable area. For a lot of cats, a hand coming down towards their belly triggers an immediate defensive reflex. All four paws, claws out, will shoot up and grab your hand in what people call the belly trap. So my advice? Appreciate the gesture for the incredible compliment it is, but maybe resist the urge to go in for the pet. Okay, so now that we've covered some specific behaviors, let's really dig into that first key to communication we mentioned, context. Because as we're starting to see, a single action, a single sound can mean completely different things depending on the situation and all the other body language happening at the same time. A tail flick isn't just a tail flick, and as we're about to see, a purr is definitely not always a sign of a happy cat. This is a really big one. We've all been taught to think that purring equals a happy cat, and look, a lot of the time it does. A cat purring away on your lap is probably feeling pretty great, but vets will tell you that cats also purr when they're in a lot of pain, when they're seriously injured, or even when they're dying. In those situations, it's believed that purring acts as a kind of self-soothing mechanism, almost like a kid sucking their thumb for comfort. Some research even suggests the low-frequency vibrations might help with healing. So the main takeaway is, to understand a purr, you have to look at the whole cat. Is their body relaxed? Are their eyes soft? Or are they tense, hiding and showing other signs of being upset? Context is what tells you the real story. A cat's tail is basically an emotional weather vane. It's constantly broadcasting their state of mind. If you see that tail held straight up, maybe with a little question mark curve at the tip, that's the cat equivalent of a big, happy smile. It means they're confident and happy to see you. But then there's the bottle brush tail, when all the fur stands on end and the tail puffs up to twice its size. That is a clear sign of a frightened or defensive cat. They're trying to make themselves look bigger and more intimidating. A tail that's thrashing or thumping hard against the floor, that's a warning sign. It's your cat saying, I'm getting really irritated right now, back off. And finally, a tail tucked down low between the legs is a signal of fear and anxiety, an attempt to seem smaller and avoid any trouble. Learning to read these tail signals can give you a real-time update on what's going on in your cat's head. Okay, we've just downloaded a ton of information, but, knowing the dictionary definitions isn't the same as actually being fluent in a language. So for this section, we're going to shift our focus a bit. I'm not just going to give you more facts, I'm going to give you a method. This is all about how you can become a better, calmer observer of your own cat so you can start to read their unique signals right there in your own home. This breaks it down into a really simple but super powerful tool. Think of it as a new daily practice. Step 1 is to just notice the behavior without any judgment. So your cat is hiding under the bed. That's it. That's the observation. Not, my cat is being antisocial, or my cat is mad at me. Just, the cat is under the bed. Step 2, rewind the tape. What happened right before the hiding started? Did the doorbell ring? Did you turn on the vacuum cleaner? This helps you find the potential trigger. Step 3 is to see what happens next. Do they stay hidden until the noise stops? Do they come out if you offer a treat? This shows you how they cope. And the final and most important step is to look for a pattern. If this whole sequence happens every single time the vacuum comes out, then you've just unlocked a really important piece of information about what stresses your cat out. This simple process can turn you from a confused owner into a really thoughtful observer.
Now, this is about the mental traps we all can fall into. Probably the biggest one is projecting complex human emotions like spite or revenge onto our cats. Your cat is not peeing outside the litter box to get back at you for going on vacation. There is almost certainly a medical reason or a major stressor in their environment causing it. Another huge mistake is that dog framework we talked about. A cat avoiding eye contact isn't being rude. In their world, that's a polite way to de-escalate any potential tension. And finally, remember that fourth step: don't freak out over a single incident. Look for the consistent patterns. That's where the real story is. Avoiding these misinterpretations is really the key to building a relationship that's based on respect for who they actually are as cats.
Okay, we need to shift gears for a minute and talk about something that's incredibly important. Because cats are hardwired by evolution to hide any sign of pain or illness so they don't look like an easy target for predators, changes in their behavior are often the very first and sometimes the only clue we get that something might be medically wrong. Now, this isn't about being paranoid. It's about being a really attentive and responsible advocate for them.
And the absolute key concept here is this: the most important signal is change. Every single cat is an individual. One cat is naturally a couch potato, another one is a bundle of energy. One is a picky eater, another will eat anything. What truly matters isn't whether your cat's behavior matches some textbook definition of normal, but whether it's a change from their normal. Knowing your cat's unique baseline, their typical appetite, their energy level, their grooming habits, their social interactions, that knowledge is the single most powerful tool you have for catching potential health problems early.
So what kind of changes are we talking about? Well, first and foremost, the litter box. Any sudden change here, going outside the box, straining to go, or making way more trips than usual, that's a major red flag, and it warrants a call to your vet, period. Next, think about their daily routine. Are they suddenly eating or drinking way more or way less? Have their grooming habits changed? A cat that suddenly stops grooming and looks unkempt, or one that starts obsessively grooming one particular spot, is often trying to tell you something's wrong. And what about their energy and social life? A playful cat that suddenly becomes lethargic, or a super friendly cat that's now hiding and aggressive? Those are big changes. And remember, it's not about one weird day. We're looking for persistent patterns or a cluster of these changes happening together. If you see that, it's always best to get a professional opinion from your veterinarian.
As we start to wrap this up, I really want to reinforce one central idea. Learning to understand your cat isn't like solving a math problem where you find the answer and you're done. It's not a task with an endpoint. It's much more like learning a new language. The more you practice, the more fluent you become, and the deeper and more meaningful your conversations get. This is an ongoing process, and it's one that will just keep enriching the bond that you share with them.
This quote from the research really just sums up the whole journey we've been on today. So anthropomorphism, that's just a fancy word for that trap of assigning human emotions and motives to our cats. And ethology is the scientific study of their actual biological behavior. The whole goal is to move from the first one to the second. When we can stop seeing their actions as random quirks or trying to figure out if they're mad at us, and instead start seeing them as part of an ancient, meaningful language that's rooted in millions of years of evolution, that's when we can connect with them on a much more authentic and respectful level. So I'll just leave you with this one last thought. You don't have to become a cat behavior expert overnight. Just start with one thing. What is one familiar behavior that your cat does every single day? Maybe it's the way they greet you when you come home, or how they chatter at the birds they see outside the window. This week, just try observing that one behavior with fresh eyes. Use that four-step method we talked about. Just notice it, look at the context, see the pattern. What do you think your cat is really trying to tell you? The conversation is there, just waiting for you to listen. Thanks so much for watching.